No warning was issued. No emergency was declared. And yet, within hours, the aircraft was gone. At 1:19 a.m., the cockpit made its final radio contact. The words were calm, polite, ordinary. "Good night, Malaysian 370. Then the plane vanished. The transponder, used to identify and track aircraft, stopped transmitting. Not gradually. Not because of a system failure. It was turned off. Manually. That single detail would later haunt investigators. Radar showed the aircraft making an unexpected turn. Not toward Beijing, but back across Malaysia, then out over open ocean. A path no one could explain. For hours, the world didn't know anything was wrong. Air traffic controllers assumed the plane had entered another region's airspace. Other authorities assumed the same. Each believed someone else was watching the flight. No one was. By the time alarms were raised, MH370 had already slipped into the dark. What followed was confusion. Contradictory reports. Delays. False leads. Families waited in airports, staring at departure boards that still listed the flight as on time. Behind the scenes, panic was growing. Military radar data, released later, suggested the plane flew for hours after contact was lost. Satellite pings confirmed it stayed airborne far longer than expected, following a path that ended somewhere in the vast southern Indian Ocean. An area so remote, so deep, so unforgiving, that even modern technology struggled to search it. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. Months into years. No wreckage. No black box. No clear answers. Just questions. How does a plane that large disappear in the age of satellites? Why was its tracking disabled? Why did it change course? And perhaps most disturbing of all, why did the systems that should have caught this fail? MH370 didn't crash in front of witnesses. It didn't send a final message. It didn't leave a trail of fire or debris. It simply faded. As the world searched the oceans, theories began to form. Some were grounded in evidence. Others drifted into darker territory. But one thing became clear very quickly. This was not a normal aviation accident. Because planes don't just vanish. And people don't disappear without leaving something behind. Yet MH370 did. And whatever happened next, whatever truly occurred inside that cockpit, was about to rewrite everything investigators thought they knew. For the crew of flight MH370, everything appeared routine. The captain was experienced. The first officer was well trained. The aircraft had no known mechanical issues. There was no sign of panic in the cockpit. No raised voices. No confusion. The final transmission, "Good night, Malaysian 370, was delivered in a calm, professional tone. Exactly how it should sound. And then, nothing. No emergency code. No mayday call. No indication that something had gone wrong. That silence is one of the most disturbing parts of the case. Aviation experts agree on one thing: if a plane is in trouble, pilots talk. They report smoke, mechanical failure, sudden decompression, anything. But MH370 offered no such warning. Which means whatever happened next was either sudden, controlled, or intentional. Investigators later confirmed that the plane's transponder was shut off shortly after the last radio contact. This wasn't something turbulence could do. This wasn't a power failure. Someone in the cockpit had to know exactly what they were doing. Then came another detail. Military radar tracked the aircraft making a sharp turn west. Not a slight deviation. A deliberate course change that took the plane back across the Malay Peninsula. It passed near multiple airports. places where an emergency landing could have been attempted. But MH370 didn't descend. It didn't land. It kept going, as if avoiding something, or being guided. Inside the cabin, passengers had no idea what was happening. There were no messages sent, no calls, no social media posts describing panic. This suggests the cabin remained calm for a long time after communication was lost, which raises an unsettling possibility. What if the passengers were never aware anything was wrong? Some experts believe the aircraft may have experienced a slow loss of cabin pressure, leaving passengers unconscious while the plane continued on autopilot. Others argue the flight path was too complex for automation alone. The plane climbed. It turned. It stayed airborne for hours. That doesn't happen by accident. And then there's the human factor. Investigators examined the backgrounds of the crew. Every detail. Training records. Personal lives. Simulator data. One detail would later spark controversy: a flight path simulation found on the captain's home computer that resembled a remote section of the southern Indian Ocean. Was it coincidence? Training? Or preparation? Officials never gave a clear answer. Families were left with fragments of information. Incomplete explanations. Carefully worded statements that avoided firm conclusions. And with each passing day, the silence from MH370 felt louder. Because somewhere between that final calm radio call and the endless ocean beyond, something irreversible happened. Something that separated this flight from every other disappearance in aviation history. And whatever that moment was, it was carefully hidden. For days after MH370 vanished, investigators believed the plane had crashed shortly after losing contact. Then the radar data surfaced, and everything changed. Military radar from Malaysia showed something no one was prepared for. After the transponder was switched off, MH370 didn't fall from the sky. It didn't explode. It didn't disappear immediately. It kept flying. The radar tracked the aircraft making a wide, deliberate turn back across the country. It crossed the Malay Peninsula, passed near Penang, and continued out over the Andaman Sea. This wasn't a random drift. It followed waypoints, clean angles, controlled movement. Someone was flying that plane. Even more unsettling was what came next. Satellite data from Inmarsat revealed a series of automated handshakes between the aircraft and a satellite high above the Earth. These signals weren't messages. They didn't contain location data. But they proved one crucial thing. MH370 stayed airborne for hours after it disappeared from civilian radar. Each handshake narrowed the plane's possible path into two massive arcs, one stretching north toward Central Asia, the other plunging south into the empty reaches of the Indian Ocean. Investigators quickly ruled out the northern route. No radar. No sightings. No debris. No evidence. That left the south, an area so remote that planes almost never passed through it. An ocean so deep that parts of it have never been mapped in detail. A place where a crash could vanish forever. But here's the detail that still troubles experts. The timing of the satellite pings suggests changes in speed and altitude. At one point, data indicates the aircraft may have climbed sharply, then descended, then leveled off again. These were not the actions of a plane on autopilot alone. Autopilot doesn't improvise. It doesn't adapt. It doesn't make human decisions. Someone, or something, was managing that aircraft long after the world thought it was gone. When this information became public, the investigation took a darker turn. The idea of a sudden accident no longer made sense. The evidence pointed to intentional control. But by whom? Investigators faced an impossible problem. The radar-proofed MH370 flew for hours. The satellite pings narrowed the search zone. And yet, when the largest and most expensive search in aviation history began, almost nothing was found. No wreckage field. No floating debris trail. No black boxes. Just ocean. The radar data answered one question but created 10 more. Why turn the transponder off? Why avoid populated airspace? Why fly into the most remote part of the planet? And perhaps the most haunting question of all. Was this disappearance planned? Because radar doesn't lie. Satellites don't imagine things. And they both agree on one terrifying truth. MH370 didn't vanish quickly. It was taken somewhere no one was meant to find. The moment investigators accepted that MH370 flew south, the search changed forever. It became a race against time. In the largest ocean on Earth, satellites, aircraft, ships, and deep-sea vessels were deployed across a stretch of water so vast it barely felt searchable. Thousands of square miles. Crushing depths. Constant storms. Some areas dropped more than 20,000 feet into darkness. This wasn't just difficult. It was almost impossible. Early searches focused on satellite images that showed possible debris. White shapes. Dark streaks. Floating objects that looked promising from space. Each lead raised hope. Each lead led to nothing. Weeks passed. Then months. Families watched daily press conferences where officials spoke carefully. Always cautious. Always unsure. Phrases like areas of interest and ongoing analysis became routine. But behind the scenes, frustration was growing. Because for a plane that flew for hours and likely impacted the ocean at high speed, there should have been more. Commercial aircraft crashes usually leave debris fields. Floating wreckage. Oil slicks. Personal items. But MH370 left almost nothing behind. And that absence disturbed experts. Ocean currents were studied. Drift models were built. Computer simulations ran thousands of times. All pointed to one general region in the southern Indian Ocean. So the search focused there. For years, autonomous underwater vehicles scanned the seafloor. Sonar mapped ridges and trenches no human had ever seen. Millions of dollars were spent. Nations cooperated. Technology pushed its limits. And still, nothing. No fuselage. No engines. No black boxes. Just silence. Then, years later, something finally appeared. A piece of a wing flaperon washed ashore on a beach thousands of miles away. It was confirmed to be from MH370. More fragments followed. Small. Scattered. Found by chance. These discoveries proved the plane had gone down in the ocean. But they didn't explain how. Or where exactly. Or why the main wreckage was still missing. Some experts suggested the plane may have impacted the water in a controlled glide, breaking apart less violently than expected. Others believed it struck at high speed, sinking quickly into deep trenches where sonar had trouble reaching. But none of the explanations fully satisfied investigators. Because here's the unsettling truth. The ocean keeps secrets. At those depths, wreckage doesn't float. It doesn't drift. It disappears. Buried by sediment. Hidden by terrain. Swallowed by pressure and time. And if someone wanted a plane never to be found, there are few better places on Earth. As the search dragged on, funding dried up. Public interest faded. Official effort slowed, then stopped. MH370 became a cold case. But cold cases don't mean solved cases. They mean unanswered ones. And as the search ended, attention turned elsewhere. Away from the ocean and toward the clues that had been overlooked. Because if the sea wouldn't give up its secrets, maybe the truth was never in the water at all. Long after the search ships left the ocean, MH370 refused to stay buried. Because years later, new clues began to surface. Quietly. Unexpectedly. And each one reopened wounds that never healed. The first was the debris. When pieces of the aircraft washed ashore on distant beaches, they didn't arrive together. They appeared slowly, one fragment at a time, found by chance on islands thousands of miles apart. Some were confirmed parts of the plane. Others remain disputed to this day. But what troubled investigators wasn't just where the debris appeared. It was how it looked. Several pieces showed unusual damage patterns. Barnacle growth suggested they had been in the water for years, but fractures hinted at forces that didn't fully match a simple ocean impact. Some experts questioned whether all the debris had come from a single crash site. Then there were the satellite pings. Independent researchers reanalyzed the data using newer methods. Some suggested the plane's final descent was not a straight dive, but a series of controlled movements. A slow, intentional glide. One that would reduce debris and limit detection. If true, this meant the aircraft was still under control until the very end. Another disturbing detail involved the passengers. Digital forensics experts looked into phones and devices that belonged to people on board. A small number of phones reportedly attempted to reconnect to cellular networks hours after the flight disappeared. These connections were brief, weak, impossible to confirm fully. But even the suggestion sent chills through the investigation. Because if accurate, it would mean the plane, or parts of it, remained airborne or above water far longer than assumed. Then came the human clues. Investigators revisited the personal lives of those on board. Nothing obvious stood out. No clear motive. No single suspect. But patterns emerged that were uncomfortable. The captain's simulator data was re-examined again and again. Analysts argued over its meaning. Some called it coincidence. Others believed it showed intent. No final conclusion was ever reached. And then there were the reports that never made headlines. Claims from fishermen. From island residents. From people who said they saw strange lights in the sky the night MH370 vanished. Reports logged. Filed. Then quietly dismissed. Too vague. Too late. Too hard to verify. But taken together, they formed something unsettling. A picture that didn't fully align with the official narrative. Because official explanations rely on certainty. And MH370 offered none. Every new clue seemed to point in a different direction. Sabotage. Hijacking. Fire. Hypoxia. Intentional disappearance. Mechanical failure followed by human intervention. Each theory solved one part of the puzzle and broke another. And that's what made MH370 different. It wasn't just missing. It was incomplete. As years passed, one uncomfortable truth became clear. The evidence we have may never be enough. Because whatever happened in that cockpit, whatever decision was made, it was made in isolation. With no witnesses. No recordings. No final message. And that silence has allowed something else to grow. New theories. Darker ones. The kind that refuse to stay buried. Eventually, the world demanded an answer. And the official explanation came. According to investigators, Flight MH370 was most likely the result of intentional human action, followed by the aircraft flying on autopilot until it ran out of fuel and crashed into the southern Indian Ocean. No hijacking. No mechanical failure. No outside interference. Just a quiet, controlled disappearance. On paper, the explanation sounded logical. It fit the satellite data. It matched the long flight path. It explained why no distress call was made and why the plane avoided populated areas. But logic isn't the same as certainty. And this explanation had cracks. First, there was no clear motive. Investigators could not prove why anyone would deliberately cause the disappearance of a commercial aircraft carrying 239 people. No message. No demands. No claim of responsibility. No note. No warning. Second, there was no direct evidence. No cockpit voice recordings. No flight data recorder. No eyewitnesses. Everything was inferred. Calculated. Estimated. A theory built on probabilities, not proof. Then there was the issue of passenger awareness. If the aircraft flew for hours, why were there no signs of panic? Why no phone calls? Why no recorded messages from passengers or crew? Supporters of the official theory argue that cabin hypoxia, slow loss of oxygen, could explain this. Passengers would lose consciousness quietly. The plane would continue on autopilot. But critics point out something important. The flight path wasn't simple. It involved turns, altitude changes, timing that suggested active management, not just automation. And that made the autopilot explanation feel incomplete. Another problem was transparency. The final report used careful language. Phrases like most likely and cannot be ruled out appeared often. It avoided naming individuals. It avoided firm conclusions. It didn't say what happened. It said what might have happened. Families were left unsatisfied. Some openly rejected the findings. Others accused authorities of closing the case without solving it. Because when a conclusion answers some questions but leaves the biggest ones untouched, it doesn't feel like truth. It feels like closure for the sake of closure. And then there was this. If MH370 was the result of deliberate action, why hasn't any similar event occurred since? Why no copycat incidents? Why no confirmed pattern? A theory that explains everything should also explain repetition. This one didn't. So while the official explanation became the accepted narrative, it never became the accepted truth. It closed the investigation, but not the mystery. And in the space left behind by uncertainty, something else began to grow. New theories. Bolder ones. The kind that challenge everything we think we know about what happened that night. Just when MH370 seemed destined to fade into history, new theories began to surface. Not rumors. Not internet fantasies. But ideas built from re-examined data, overlooked details, and unanswered gaps. One of the most discussed new theories suggests intentional diversion followed by controlled disappearance. According to this view, the aircraft was deliberately flown along a path designed to avoid radar coverage and end in the most remote part of the ocean on Earth. Not chaos. Not panic. Precision. Supporters of this theory point to the timing. The transponder was disabled at a moment that reduced detection. The turn back across Malaysia followed known waypoints. The final satellite pings aligned with fuel exhaustion far from shipping routes. If true, it suggests planning. Another theory focuses on electrical failure combined with human response. A fire or system malfunction could have knocked out communication systems while leaving the plane flyable. The crew, struggling to regain control, may have inadvertently flown off course while trying to manage an escalating emergency. This theory explains the silence, but not the deliberate turns. Then there's a darker idea that continues to divide experts. The possibility of external interference. Some researchers have questioned whether MH370 encountered an unknown object, signal, or event that disrupted navigation and communication systems. This theory remains highly controversial, with no direct proof, but it persists because of how cleanly MH370 vanished from conventional tracking. No explosion. No debris trail. No mayday. Just absence. There is also renewed focus on cyber interference. Modern aircraft rely heavily on digital systems. Some analysts believe MH370 may have been vulnerable to remote manipulation or system override, intentionally or accidentally. While officially dismissed, the theory gained traction as aviation cybersecurity became a real-world concern years later. And then there's the theory no one wants to talk about. That MH370 wasn't meant to be found. That the disappearance itself was the objective. No message. No survivors. No wreckage. Because the most effective disappearance is one that leaves just enough evidence to confirm loss, but never enough to explain it. Each new theory shares one thing in common. They exist because the evidence allows them to exist. Because MH370 left too many gaps. Too many moments where something should have happened and didn't. And that's what keeps the case alive. Because until the wreckage is found, until the black boxes speak, until the silence is broken, every theory remains possible. And that brings us to the final question, the one that still hangs over this mystery like a shadow. After years of searching, debating, and theorizing, MH370 still sits in a place no other aviation case has ever reached. Somewhere between known and unknowable. We know the plane took off. We know it turned back. We know it flew for hours. And we know it ended in the vastness of the southern Indian Ocean. But everything in between remains a void. No final words. No final data. No final truth. That silence is what keeps this mystery alive. Because when a plane disappears in the modern world, tracked by satellites, monitored by radar, filled with digital systems, it challenges something fundamental. It challenges the belief that everything can be explained. That nothing can truly vanish. MH370 proved otherwise. It showed that even with all our technology, control is an illusion. That a single decision, a single failure, or a single unknown factor can still erase 239 lives without leaving answers behind. Some believe the truth is already known, locked away in classified files, protected to avoid blame, panic, or political consequences. Others believe the truth is simpler, but lost forever beneath miles of water and pressure. And then there are those who believe the truth hasn't happened yet. That MH370 isn't just a past event, but a warning. A reminder that aviation, technology, and human systems are only as strong as the weakest moment inside them. What makes this case so haunting isn't just the disappearance. It's the unfinished story. The families who never received remains. The investigators who never found the wreckage. The questions that were never answered. MH370 didn't leave closure behind. It left possibility. And until the black boxes are recovered, until the main wreckage is found, until the silence speaks, every explanation remains incomplete. Maybe the real mystery of MH370 isn't what happened in the sky that night. Maybe it's this, how something so large, so real, and so important could simply disappear. And how the world was forced to accept that some mysteries may never be solved. And until the black boxes are recovered, until the main wreckage is found, until the silence speaks, every explanation remains incomplete. Maybe the real mystery of MH370 isn't what happened in the sky that night. Maybe it's this, how something so large, so real, and so important could simply disappear. And how the world was forced to accept that some mysteries may never be solved. And how the world was forced to accept that some mysteries may never be solved.